Buzz, 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 and welcome back to the Yellowjackets Hive for another hiatus episode. Sorry, I was a couple minutes late, guys. My apologies. I'm your host, Emily, and today we are continuing our character deep dive series, which this one, it's a personal favorite because we're breaking down the one and the only Misty Effing Quigley. Hi, Kennedy. How are you? She's our resident citizen detective, Red Cross trained babysitter, mushroom aficionado, sweet but psycho, and absolutely unforgettable. I am so excited to dive into all things Misty today. My notes are quite extensive, so I'm going to try to be timely about this because I had a lot to say about Misty. Uh, Misty has always been my favorite from the start. She's completely off the wall and just so much fun to watch. And on, yes, Kennedy, our freaky four-eyed mushroom, I do touch on that line too. On the surface, she comes across as sweet, like she just wants to be liked by her peers. But underneath, there's something more sinister going on. She's willing to go to great lengths for that acceptance. Misty is complex. She's the type of person who will create a problem just so she can swoop in, solve it, and be seen as a hero. She's overly cheerful in totally inappropriate situations, and she works in a nursing home where vulnerable people rely on her for their well-being, which, let's be real, is probably not the best career choice for someone who seems to show signs of Munchausen by proxy. I mean, in season one, she was giving, hi, Book Monkey. In season one, she was giving Coach Ben tea to help with the swelling in his leg, not to heal him, but to keep him weak and dependent on her. And then there's the moment where she withholds meds from Mrs. DeGeneiro as punishment. That's just diabolical to do that to a nursing home patient. It was clear early on that Misty wasn't your average teenage girl. This is going to be great. Wish I wore my Cooking with Misty shirt. My shirt actually has bees on it. I don't know if you guys can see, but here, I'll stand up for a sec. I have bees on my shirt. I wore it specifically for this. Hi, Angie. So it was clear that early on Misty wasn't your average teenage girl. Remember that scene where she watches a rat struggle and drown in her swimming pool without trying to help it? That kind of set the tone for who she is. Misty also really doesn't think through the consequences of her actions. She wants instant gratification no matter what the cost is. Hey, Danielle. A perfect example would be destroying the black box. Would she have still done it if she hadn't overheard Van and Laura Lee talking about how useful she was after the crash? It's really hard to say. But what we do know is that Misty craved acceptance so badly that she was willing to sabotage their chance of being rescued. And while her intentions may not have been purely evil, the result was pretty horrifying. Because when you think about it, that decision, like if that never, well, I guess we can't say for sure, but because we know the black box wouldn't do anything, but in the world of the show, if the black box would have helped find them, if she didn't destroy that, if that would have led to their rescue, hypothetically or potentially, like that's all that followed could be pinned on her. Christina said herself that there's something wrong with Misty. Yeah. So that said, Misty is fiercely loyal to the people that she cares about. She killed Jessica Roberts when she believed she was the one behind the blackmail and the postcards. She helped the women cover up Adam's murder without hesitation. Like Natalie showed up on her doorstep. She gave her some half-ass apology, told her that she looked pretty, and that was enough to reel Misty back into their world. Her logic is often twisted and definitely deeply flawed, but most of her actions come from one core desire, which is to be accepted and valued by her peers. MF Quigley loyalty to the grave. Yes, Book Monkey, I am right there with you. I thought I'd kick things off by listing some of my favorite moments that we've received from Misty throughout the course of the series so far. Some of my absolute favorites, there are so many, but I have to start at the very beginning. Um, the very first time we're introduced to Misty, both in the past and the present, immediately hooked me. In the past, as you see here, she's the overly eager equipment manager, enthusiastically chanting, "Buzz, buzz, buzz, buzz," while getting side-eyed by Coach Ben and Coach Martinez. And I knew right then and there that I was going to absolutely love her. She was awkward, enthusiastic, and totally in her own world. And then adult Misty's entrance was iconic. And Christina only had one scene in the pilot, which is crazy because it left such a mark on me. The way she coldly tells Mrs. DeGeneiro, "Don't fuck with me," that was ruthless. That moment made it very clear that we weren't dealing with a normal human being. Christina Ricci she completely nailed it with just that one scene. So, and then another favorite, the scene where Misty is trying to help Coach Ben pop a squat and hums Breakfast at Tiffany's. It's so hilariously inappropriate and makes him wildly uncomfortable. And of course, that's peak Misty for you. Then there's the moment where she tries to touch his boner, caught red-handed being a total creep, but it was so deeply in character. And let's talk about her snorting Nat's coke to keep her from relapsing. That scene will live in my brain forever. One of the best Misty and Nat interactions of the entire series. Like, I could watch that scene on repeat over and over. I'll Venmo you. Next time, I'll just let you zunk your brains out. It was so perfect. Everything about it was perfect. Her Steel Magnolias monologue and Shauna's baby shower in season 2 had me howling. Beyond inappropriate for the moment, given the context of the scene that she was reciting for all of them. But it was classically Misty. I loved every second. And her little dig at Lottie about calling the IRS if she didn't let Natalie leave her compound, it was hysterical. And don't get me started on the motel scene where she basically intimidates the guy at the front desk by somehow knowing his name, his address, and his social security number. That scene had me clapping for her. And of course, I only voted for Ty so I could get picked for jury duty. I've lit dicks on fire. I'll crotch your burn. Murderer, arrest her. I could go on for days. There are just so many iconic Misty moments that have stuck with me across both timelines. And truly, Sammy and Ratty and Christina Ricci bring something unmatched to this character. The energy they bring, the absolute commitment to the chaos that is Misty Quigley. I don't think anyone else could have played her. The casting on this show is no exaggeration and next level perfect. I have all day and I have a book. Yes, exactly, Danielle. Exactly. Now, if there's one thing that Misty has always seemed desperate for throughout the show, it's friendship. And we've seen a few friendships start to form for her, some that she actively pursued, others that she more or less forced into existence. So I thought we would highlight the main 3 that have happened throughout the course of the show. And we will start with Natalie. Let's start with her dynamic with adult Nat in season 1 specifically, because in season 2 they were more separated. But as soon as Natalie approaches Misty for help, it's obvious that Misty holds a certain level of respect for her, something she doesn't seem to have for the other women. And we've all speculated why that is, and I think we finally got our answer at the end of season 3. Back in the past timeline, Natalie finds out that Misty sabotaged the black box, basically destroying their chance of being rescued. But Natalie doesn't tell the others. She keeps Misty's secret. Why? The only explanation that I can come up with is that Natalie is just genuinely a good person. She knew that if she told the group that Misty would probably be dead in a heartbeat. And Nat could not have lived with the guilt of knowing that she caused that to happen. So she protected her, even though she didn't have to. And that may have been Misty's biggest secret that she ever had. That act made Misty absolutely idolize Natalie. After seeing that flashback, Misty's behavior toward Nat as an adult suddenly made a lot more sense to me. She's had Nat's back because Nat had hers first, and she wanted to return the favor. I mean, take the whole hidden camera in the motel room situation. Misty kept Natalie from relapsing on coke by spying on her. Creepy? Absolutely. Overbearing and a massive invasion of privacy? No question about that. But in Misty's mind, that was her way of showing that she cared. And honestly, I think stabbing Natalie with that syringe at the end of season 2 might be the only thing that Misty has ever truly felt guilty about. Natalie may have not been her friend in the traditional sense, but there was definitely a bond there. One that Misty felt deeply, as we all know, even if she didn't always know how to express it in the healthiest way. Next up on Misty's friendship journey would be Crystal. And then there's Crystal, Misty's wilderness bestie for the restie. Crystal immediately piques Misty's interest by saying they can harmonize and that she'll teach Misty how to sing. Say no more, Crystal. You had her at we can. Misty being a part of a we, count her in. Just the idea of being part of a we it's a completely foreign concept to Misty at this point. Crystal takes Misty under her wing and makes her feel like they'd been friends long before the plane ever crashed. We see them bond over their shared love of musical theater and their offbeat, quirky personalities. They even start to get on everyone's nerves, especially Mari's. They talk about who they'd invite to a sleepover. They share secrets. Crystal even helps Misty rehearse her Steel Magnolias monologue for Shauna's baby shower. She shows Misty a kind of warmth and acceptance that she's never experienced before. For once, Misty feels like an equal, like a real person, not just someone that's hanging around on the outside. And just when Misty starts to trust her, she makes a huge mistake. During a game of rapid fire secrets, she confesses to destroying the black box. And Crystal is absolutely horrified. And in true Misty fashion, panic takes over and she ends up indirectly killing Crystal to keep her secret from getting out. The only person who ever showed her real kindness ends up in a bloody heap at the bottom of Shit Cliff. So also no one would find out what Misty is capable of. Sweet, but a little psycho. Let me read through some of these comments. You had her at we. The look Nat gives Misty at the reunion when she joins them at the slow walk was so nice. That was really nice. And Kennedy and Misty herself, you could tell in that moment she felt genuinely accepted. And it meant so much to her that Natalie even went. So yeah, that was a really nice moment. Drives me nuts when people think she wasn't real. Yeah, we're not on that train, Danielle. Crystal was definitely real. Next up on Misty's, I guess if you want to call it friendship at this point, I don't really know what to make of their relationship anymore or where they stand, but would be Walter. Last, but certainly not least, Walter, the Enigma. Walter Tattersall. Is he Misty's equal or her enemy? Walter comes across as quirky and unassuming. He's kind of like Misty in male form, if Misty had a ridiculous amount of money and no clue what to do with it. I don't think Misty really knows what to make of him, to be honest. At first, she's definitely skeptical, but once she warms up, she accepts the help that he offers, but with some hesitation. They share a mutual love of musical theater, which actually freaks Misty out at first. She even accuses him of being obsessed with the Yellowjackets and trying to uncover what really happened in the wilderness. Trust doesn't come easy to Misty. I do think Misty cares about Walter, but I also think she wants him at her beck and call. She treats him the way the other women treat her, as a means to an end. She uses him when it benefits her and then pushes him aside when she's done. But the twist is that Walter doesn't really seem to mind, at least not outwardly. So the question becomes, does he genuinely care for Misty, or is he playing a long game of his own? Walter goes out of his way to help her, especially after Natalie's death. But instead of welcoming his support, Misty mostly seems annoyed, uncomfortable, almost dismissive. It mirrors how she was treated in the wilderness, ignored, undervalued, and only appreciated when convenient. It's strange. Walter offers her the very things that she's always craved: love and acceptance. And yet she keeps him at arm's length. We know they're close to equal in their citizen's detective skills. Or are they? More on that next. If he does care for her, their love is weird. Gives me an Alfred Batman feel. So now I know we all think of Misty as our resident citizen detective. And at the start of the series, we're led to believe that she's actually pretty good at it. And maybe she is, but I also think that she overestimates her abilities as the story unfolds. In season 1, when Natalie comes to Misty because she thinks Misty sent her the postcard, we see Misty's infamous binder full of clues, which helps lead them to Travis. That gave the impression that Misty was sharp, organized, and on top of things. But once Walter enters the picture, I think he unintentionally highlights some of the skills that Misty lacks. He's clearly a skilled hacker, and Misty ends up relying on him for quite a bit, like tracking the credit card they used to find Natalie or getting to the bottom of the DNA evidence after Lottie was murdered. So first, we're told Misty is good at what she does, but we may have been giving her a little too much credit. If she really was this all-knowing citizen detective, how did she miss some pretty big things along the way? For starters, she had no idea that Lottie was no longer in the mental institution in Switzerland. And not only that, she completely missed the fact that Lottie started an intentional community. You think there'd be like some kind of paper trail there, right? Like a business license, a property purchase, something. So how did Misty miss that? She also famously said torsos are useless when they were disposing of Adam's body in the park. And yet the police still managed to use his torso to identify him, which kind of makes it very useful. Oops. And then there's Melissa. Misty had no clue that Melissa was still alive and had faked her death. Sure, Melissa did a good job of covering her tracks, but Misty claimed she was keeping tabs on everyone, or so she thought. Misty's real problem is that she thinks she's better than she is. As the series has gone on and she's gotten more deeply involved with the other adults in the present timeline, her edge has definitely dulled. She's become more relaxed and with that, more careless. And I think there's a chance that she could end up paying for that. Misty thinks that she's 2 steps ahead. Yeah, that is a good point, RD, that she recognized Melissa while in a moving car. And if Melissa was supposed to have died as a teenager, how would she have any idea what she looked like as a grown woman? So yeah, that's a very good point. But I have a feeling Walter is the one who's really playing chess while Misty's still playing checkers. And I wouldn't be surprised if that catches up to her before the series ends. She was also unable to link Jessica Roberts to Thaisa. Very true. Very true, Elon. Very true. Yeah. Maybe her emotional involvement clouding her judgment. Yeah, I definitely think that's a major component. The fact that being involved with all these women makes her careless, makes her abandon practices that she abides by because she craves that acceptance over everything. Travis changed his name too and was able to find him. Maybe she was protecting Melissa. That would be a twist. So now we'll go through and we'll break down Misty's character arc throughout the series. So in season 1, I'm going to do it teen timeline first, then adult timeline for each season. So we'll go teen timeline, adult timeline for each season. So for the teen timeline in season 1, we get our first glimpse of Misty as the overly enthusiastic equipment manager in the pilot episode. Buzz, 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 bitches. After the crash, Misty is immediately useful, almost too useful. She jumps into action because she took the Red Cross babysitter training course twice. We also got our first peek into Misty's pre-crash world. There's that scene of her in her bedroom, circa 1992, getting a phone call from Becky accusing her of hooking up with Robbie Delgado in the janitor's closet. Even when being insulted, Misty is still seeking connection. It honestly made me feel sad for her. Opinion is the wilderness between knowledge and ignorance. That's Plato, she says, trying to impress Becky, who just calls her a fucking weirdo because what teenager quotes Plato to another teenager? You can already tell how deeply Misty wants to be accepted, even if she has no clue how to actually earn that acceptance. That quote gave me chills. Yeah, that scene crushed me. Yeah, it was really sad. It made me feel for her big time. Right after the crash, Misty finds Coach Scott and helps the group move debris to pull him to safety. Then we see his leg. It's basically chopped liver from the knee down. Misty grabs the axe from the cockpit and takes it upon herself to amputate his leg. As wild as that moment was, it literally saved his life. She disinfects the wound with Jackie Seabreeze, uses a belt as a tourniquet, and even cauterizes it later that night. Say what you want, but Misty seriously stepped up when it mattered most. Then comes a turning point. I'm sure I quoted Plato to another teenager to a similar response. Well, then you are smarter than I am, RD, because I don't even know if I realized who Plato was when I was a teenager, to be honest. Maybe I learned about him in history, but I truthfully don't remember. I'm old now. So then comes a turning point. Misty overhears Van and Laura Lee saying how screwed they'd be without her, and it lights something in her. She's delighted. She then notices the plane's flight recorder blinking red. She finds it and immediately smashes it to pieces. It's a huge moment. I still remember watching that for the first time and thinking to myself, why the fuck would she do that? I knew she wasn't your average teenage girl, but I was like, okay, this is a whole nother ball game. Are you quoting beaches at me right now? So after they find the cabin, Coach Ben sits on the porch swatting away flies and accidentally falls. Misty rushes to help him, but he slaps her away and tells her not to touch him. That doesn't stop her, though. She cradles him when he breaks down, and you can see her crush starting to take root. Later, she even assists him in the woods when he's trying to use the bathroom, singing Breakfast at Tiffany's to soothe him while he struggles. Misty thrives on being needed, even in the weirdest, most uncomfortable ways. Don't say you're old, because then I am also old. You're like 4 years older than me. Okay, I'm not old. I'm middle-aged. How about that? So she starts giving him tea to help the swelling in his leg, but as we all know, it makes him vomit. That was intentional. Misty wanted him to be weak and dependent on her. And when he finally realizes what's going on, he confronts her. Misty confesses that she has feelings for him, and Coach Ben, desperate to get her off his back, pretends, and he reciprocates. He tells her that it has to stay their secret because the others would be jealous. Manipulative? For sure. But it also shows just how off balance Misty's worldview is. When Thaisa sets out to hike out for help, Misty joins her along with Mari, Akila, and Van. Misty makes a whole production of saying goodbye to Coach and promises she'll return. On their hike, they come across a red stream. Misty claims it's just mineral runoff, but the others are spooked because of Lottie's earlier vision about a river of blood. Later that night, Van is attacked by wolves while Ty is supposed to be on watch, and Ty sends Misty and the others to get help, and Van's face is eventually stitched up by Akila, who many think should, if she made it to the present day, should be a plastic surgeon because of how good of a job she did on Van's face. Then we get to Laura Lee's Dune plane ride. And am I the only one who remembers Coach Ben from the originals? He was so good in that show. I never watched the originals, but I did know that he was on the originals. Misty is very smart for a 17-year-old. Yeah, she's incredibly smart and very resourceful. And the girls throw a makeshift dance to distract themselves from the hopelessness. Before the event, Doomcoming, Misty sneaks out to her hidden trapper keeper in the woods, which I still have questions about that trapper keeper and whether she just went foraging one day and gathered a bunch of random plants and herbs or whatever else was in there along with those mushrooms and just had them for safekeeping, or if they found something like a stock of something and she just held on to it. Always wondered about that, about the trapper keeper full of plants. She brings them with her. Do we know what her plans were for after college before the crash, or was Misty a junior? I'm pretty sure Misty was a senior. I don't think that they never specified what her plans were, but I was just watching episode 1 of season 3, and I was paying close attention to the scenery in Misty's bedroom, and up on her wall, you can see she received some awards, and one of those awards was for nursing. So I'm assuming that nursing was always her plan. Like, she seems like one of those people that decided very early, like, this is what I'm going to do. She demonstrated an absurd degree during Ben's trial with how she went toe-to-toe with Ty. For sure, yeah. And she did a really good job during the trial. Jackie helps Misty with her makeup beforehand, a rare moment of genuine kindness that clearly means a lot to Misty. When Shauna asks Misty to zip her dress, she puts the mushrooms down on the table, and Mari unknowingly adds them to the stew. Once the soup kicks in, everyone starts tripping hard. Misty goes looking for Coach, overhears part of his conversation with Natalie, and completely misinterprets it. She throws herself at him, and he finally outs himself as gay to make it stop. The next morning, a hungover Misty insists, oh, guys, I'm sorry, I have to get up for a second. My cat is going to cry if I don't let him out of the room, so give me 3 seconds. Oh, just kidding. My husband got him. So, hey, Becca, I thought she had the binder in her luggage and removed whatever was in it beforehand. That's possible. I mean, that's entirely possible. So the next morning, a hungover Misty insists that the mushrooms were only meant for Coach, and none of this would have happened if he hadn't tricked her into falling in love with him. Classic Misty. Twisted logic, all rooted in the desperate need to belong. Jackie was one of that was nice to her. Yes, precisely. A cat reference during a Misty deep dive is very on brand. That was totally unintentional, but that is a good point. Soon after, Lottie kills a bear that walks into camp, and they prepare a feast. Lottie leads a blessing over the food, and when Jackie doesn't participate, Misty is the one to call her out, even after Jackie showed her kindness. That moment really struck me. Misty was willing to throw the one person who had showed her empathy under the bus just to earn favor with the rest of the group. It shows how deep her need to be included really runs. She'll betray literally anyone if it means that she gets to stay in the circle. The season ends with Misty kneeling behind Lottie as she places the bear's heart in the Doomcoming stump. Misty is right there, ready to follow, desperate to be a part of something, even if it's something dark that she doesn't understand. That's always been the core of Misty. She doesn't care what the cost is as long as she isn't left out. So for the adult timeline of season 1, we only get a brief moment with adult Misty in the pilot episode, but boy, can Christina Ricci pack a punch. Easily my favorite performance of the entire series. Christina, I love you. I love that she named her bird Caligula, one of the most misunderstood Roman empires. Yeah, that's definitely saying something that she chose to name the bird Caligula. So our introduction to adult Misty shows that she hasn't changed. She's just gotten smarter. Her patient, Mrs. DeGeneiro, throws her food tray to the ground, and Misty retaliates by withholding her pain meds. Pure evil and next level spiteful. She flat out tells her, "Don't fuck with me." Then on her way out of work, she passes a couple of coworkers and chirps, "Happy Friday, ladies." Still putting on the show, still desperate to be accepted. From a distance, we see Natalie watching and following her. We get a glimpse into Misty's dating life next. On a date with a guy named Stan, she casually lists her turn-ons, which include knuckles and escalators, naturally. When he drops her off, she asks if he wants to come inside to meet Caligula. He tries to decline politely, and Misty immediately hits him with, "You don't want to come inside because you don't think I'm pretty." Also, shout out to her saying it was so weird that her car wouldn't start. Right, Misty. Stan then reluctantly agrees to come inside. As she preps him to meet Caligula, uh, do shield your eyes if he comes towards your face. Misty flips on the light, and surprise, Natalie is sitting in the living room with a rifle. She greets Misty with the iconic, "Hello, Misty, you crazy fucking bitch." This line absolutely lives in my head rent free. Naturally, Stan dips. A lot of fans think that Nat showing up actually saved Stan's life. um, they Considering the setup that Misty had in her basement, it's entirely possible that her plan was to lure him there for something much darker. I want to know the origins of the murder basement. Yeah, me too, Lola. I want to know where it came from. I saw, like, back during season 1, I saw a lot of speculation about the origin of it. And I don't remember who said it. It was years ago that I saw this, but somebody on Reddit said that they thought that maybe Misty um, Missy bought the house from her parents or something, and they had an apartment in the basement and she lived there and took care of them while they were old, or like she lived in the basement and took care of an elderly person while they lived upstairs, and then maybe they left it to her when they died. I saw so many theories about it. Her parents were psychologists. Maybe they experimented on people down there. People are really hung up on that basement and I forget about it all the time. Honestly, I I don't think it's her childhood home, Book Monkey. I don't. Because in the pilot when they show her her parents had a pool. Yes, like RD just said, her parents had a pool. So no, it wouldn't have been her parents' house, but like an older relative or just an elderly person that she was hired by to take care of, and she lived in the basement, and then when they died the house became hers. I've saw so many theories about it. So Nat says she's there because of the postcard and accuses Misty of being the sender. Misty pulls out the one she received and asks, "Why would I send one to myself?" She tells Nat they came from an online app and they are untraceable. Then she asks Nat, who's first on her suspect list, and pulls out a binder full of evidence. Uh, they head to a bar to go through Misty's citizen detective binder. While flipping through the files, Natalie finds Jessica Roberts' business card. Misty explains she's a reporter who's been sniffing around and even offered a book deal. Nat stumbles across a photocopy of an ID, and she asks Misty if she found Travis, which means that Natalie and Travis had lost contact for quite a while. Misty says yes, and that he definitely didn't want to be found. Is this rare instance of someone just getting immediately evolutionary danger vibes from real actual femme fatale? Then they were approached by Kevin Tan. Nat and Kevin share a moment before Misty interrupts him with, "Do you remember me from third period Spanish?" We all know the answer to that. Kevin leaves behind his card, which Misty pockets. Later, Nat's car mysteriously won't start. Misty coincidentally pulls up and offers to drive her, saying she has the next 2 days off. Nat says she was planning a road trip to see Travis, and Misty jumps at the chance to tag along. On the road, Misty pries into Nat's dating life, saying, "At our age, all the available ones are like the crumbs at the bottom of a chip bag." Then Misty giggles at a text, and Nat asks, "Got a whole chip?" They stop for gas, and while Misty is inside grabbing snacks, Nat snoops through her glove compartment and finds her battery cable, confirming that Misty sabotaged her car. They arrive at Travis's place, find it empty, and Nat breaks in. Misty digs through the trash for clues. A cop eventually shows up and arrests them for breaking and entering, but not before Misty pockets a scrap of paper. In jail, Misty jokes that the cops probably think they're hookers. Highly doubtful. Nat confronts her about the car, and Misty admits that she sabotaged it because she didn't think that Nat would invite her, and she was right. They each make a call for bail, and Misty comes through. She tells Nat it was Kevin Tan that she called because she's been texting him and pretending to be Natalie. She suspected that he liked Nat, and it turns out that she was right. When and why did Misty learn this combustion engine information to disable cars at her own whim? She seriously knows the most random skills. Like, it's crazy. It's just crazy. So They head to Travis's job and find him dead from an apparent suicide. As they drive away, Misty asks if Nat knows what his note meant. Tell Nat she was right. Nat says she doesn't, but she knows that Travis didn't kill himself. Misty is very judicious with her vacation days. She uses them to the fullest. That is for sure. She makes sure of that. Maybe she's sanctioned by the CIA or something, and Walter is her new handler, but she doesn't know it yet. Misty calls Nat later and says she knows a guy who can hack into Travis's email, and they need to meet to strategize. Nat says she has plans. So, of course, Misty follows her to her plans. A dinner date with Kevin Tan. While spying, Misty spots Jessica Roberts watching Nat too. She tries calling and texting Nat to warn her, but Nat ignores it. Kevin points out that Misty is sitting outside, so Nat goes and confronts her and tells her to go the fuck home. Misty insists that she's just having her back, and Nat snaps, "We're not Rosolian Isles." Afterward, Misty approaches Jessica and threatens her. "I know when you look at me, you don't see someone you should be afraid of, but you're wrong." We know she's wrong, Misty. For reasons that still baffle me, Misty then calls Shauna to inform her about Travis's death. Anyone else still wondering why she placed that phone call to Shauna of all people? I just can't make sense of it. Later, Nat asks Misty about hacking Kevin's email because she wants the results of the autopsy and the toxicology report, the toxicology report that he had. So Misty shows up at Nat's hotel with a diffuser as a gift, which we'll get back to. And she tells Nat the hacker, codename Stallion99, is now hesitant because he found out that the file that he was stealing is a police file. He wants to meet to discuss terms. Then Nat siphons gas from a car outside the restaurant, and they meet Stallion99. He says he wants in on whatever they're doing. Misty dumps the gas in his lap, and Nat pulls out a lighter. If the question is me lighting your dick on fire and going to jail worth getting that file? Fucking try me. Another iconic line. Love that scene. He caves. Can I just say, the dynamic between adult Nat and adult Misty is so freaking good. My favorite pairing on the show. Their chemistry, the humor, it was just pure magic. It was everything. While reviewing the file, Misty spots black smudges under Travis's body in the crime scene photos. She connects them into the symbol. Nat says that Travis didn't believe in any of that, and Misty asks them why is it in the place that he died. We see Misty spying on Nat again with her aroma diffuser hidden camera, this time when she calls Ty. Shauna says she already knows about Travis because, yep, Misty told her. Nat calls Misty a conniving, poodle-haired little fucking freak, one of my favorite insults on the show. That, and as Kennedy said earlier, freaky four-eyed mushroom, which is also about Misty. Misty then calls Jessica and tells her that her plan isn't working. She offers to meet and help. When Jessica arrives, Misty stabs her with a syringe and knocks her out. Jessica wakes up strapped to a bed in Misty's basement. Good night. Sleep tight. Don't let the fact that you're a terrible person keep you up tonight. Misty interrogates her about the postcard, the stalking, the symbol. Jessica says Ty hired her to check up on everyone for her campaign. She admits Travis was murdered and says that Misty should team up with her to find the killer. Misty tapes her mouth shut and says that she only has leverage if Misty isn't willing to make her talk, which, as we all know, Misty's more than willing. Later, Misty threatens to send fentanyl-laced chocolates to Jessica's dad, which gets her talking, of course. She tells Misty that Travis's bank account was emptied and closed after his death, and that whoever did that probably killed him. Misty sees Nat buying coke through the hidden camera and rushes to rescue her. Nat realizes that Misty's diffuser had a hidden camera in it. Misty says she was looking out for her because that's what friends do. And Nat rightfully is furious. Misty tells her that she's been working nonstop, day and night on Travis's case, and that she risked her life for her. Next time, I'll just let you zonk your brains out. It is scary to wake up somewhere else, not of your own free will, whether the woman who is captive you are now. Yeah, I can only imagine. That would have to be terrifying. When Misty gets home, Jessica is holding Caligula hostage. Misty throws everything she can until Jessica. I admire you for not mentioning that Misty did not receive a blackmail text from Jeff. For not mentioning that Misty received a blackmail text from Jeff despite receiving a postcard. Yeah, because she didn't receive a text. I mean, not that we know of, anyways. I wonder if she recorded Kevin. Of course she did. She was watching them in action. Of course. So Jessica, she wanted to go to Shauna's podiatry appointment. Yeah. Foot doctors. Sexy. She's so weird. So Jessica says Misty looks like shit. Misty starts to cry and says it's just been one of those days. She offers to make them something to eat. Jessica tries to get in her head, pointing out that the others haven't been in touch. Have any of them ever reached out to you? And yeah, we all know the answer to that. Jessica helps Misty get reunion ready. Misty says she's ready to tell her story, but they're interrupted by a knock at the door, and it's Nat. She tells Misty that she looks pretty. Misty replies, "Flattery won't work on me." And Nat offers a half-assed apology, which apparently is good enough to appease Misty and get back in her good graces, and says they need her help getting rid of a body. And Misty agrees on one condition. Nat has to go to the reunion. She grabs cleanup supplies from work and tells Nat that oxygenated bleach is the way to go because it scrubs evidence clean, so the luminol test won't detect anything. She runs the entire disposal operation, puts Adam's head and hands into Mrs. DeGennaro's casket before cremation. And honestly, tell me that was not her first time doing that. I'm still not convinced that Jeff sent the postcards despite what the editor said. Not the point. I'm right there with you, RD. I'm not buying it. Not buying it. We can talk about it again. Don't worry. So, Misty finally agrees to let Jessica go. And as Jessica drives away, she lights a cigarette that Misty had taken from her but gave back. And we then see Misty had injected the pack with fentanyl. So bye-bye, Jessica Roberts. I'm pretty sure her last words were "fucking bitch," and then her head hit the steering wheel. So that's where we leave off with adult Misty in season 1. So for season 2, teen timeline. We meet up with Misty in season 2 as she's trying to help prepare dinner, only to be immediately rebuffed by Mari, who reminds her that she's not allowed to touch the food anymore after the mushroom incident. Misty insists she's not going to poison everyone again, but Mari isn't having it. Misty complains about drawing the 4 during card chores yet again. Apparently, she seems to get it every single time. Isn't that strange, guys? Later, Misty is outside gathering snow when she runs into Crystal, who is singing on her way back from the bathroom. Misty snaps at her to shut up, which kind of surprised me because we don't really see Misty talk like that to people very often. Crystal quickly apologizes, saying she knows it's annoying. Misty tells her that she can't sing, and Crystal offers to teach her, saying they could harmonize. And this visibly piques Misty's interest. I've learned a lesson from that scene. If ever captured and successfully escaping, do not consume or imbibe anything from the person's house, even if it was on your person before. Good point, Book Monkey. I am going to remember that in case I'm ever kidnapped. The funny thing is Sammy and Alexa are really good friends. They're best friends. They are. And it is funny that they're kind of at odds in the show, yet they're so close in real life. I like Alexa too. When I spoke with her this season, she was just such a delight. She was so nice. But from there, Misty and Crystal become pretty much inseparable. Mari even asks, "There's 2 of you now?" When the group decides to throw Shauna a baby shower, Misty and Crystal chat about gift ideas. Crystal mentions it's unfortunate that no one took her broth idea seriously, because how can you have a party without snacks? Then, out of nowhere, Crystal casually reveals that this isn't the first time that she's eaten a person, in reference to Jackie. She explains that when she was in utero, she absorbed her twin. She doesn't feel guilty and likes to think she channels her on stage. Misty is awestruck, saying she admires anyone who can perform. Crystal tells her she has the perfect idea for Shauna's shower. At the shower, Misty presents a monologue from Steel Magnolias. Thaisa asks, did she really choose a scene about a dead daughter? Which, let's be real, should not have surprised anyone. But when Misty finishes, the group gives her what seems like a genuine round of applause, and Crystal cheers loudly. And Misty beams with pride in that moment. Later, when Nat and Lottie agree to a hunting competition, Misty lays out the rules like a pro. No assistance of any kind. If you get a kill, leave it and we'll come verify. If you're not back by sundown, you're disqualified. Interesting, they won't trust her around the food, but they will let her run the rules for a competition. Nat finds a moose in a frozen lake and runs back to get help. Mari argues this goes against the rules and threatens to tell Lottie, and Misty shuts her down, saying she doesn't want them all to starve. So they try to retrieve the moose, and heartbreakingly, it sinks before they can get it out. And Natalie is absolutely gutted by that. Technically, Mari dosed all of them. Yes, I've said that before, Book Monkey. It was actually Mari's fault. Misty just sat them there and Mari took them without asking. Agreed. So, Misty joins Lottie's prayer circle, continuing her constant quest for acceptance and belonging. She and Crystal sit and trade secrets. Crystal asks Misty which 3 famous people she'd invite to a sleepover. Misty's list: Plato, duh, Becky, Eric Niles, and Jack Kevorkian, because she thinks what he did was brave. And also, young Kevorkian was hot. Of course, Misty would say that. Later, Mari passes out cards for chores again. Crystal draws one she clearly hates and groans. Again, Misty offers to help her carry the bucket. On the way, they play a game of rapid-fire secrets. Crystal admits she doesn't always carry the bucket the whole way. Misty confesses she hates deodorant and pretended hers ran out post-crash when she'd actually thrown it away. Crystal admits she got fingered backstage during Bye Bye Birdie rehearsals. Misty shares she once walked in on her parents having sex and she wasn't entirely disgusted. Weird. At Shit Cliff, Crystal tosses the bucket's contents while Misty gathers some sticks to scrape the bottom. Crystal says she has a big secret and makes Misty pinky swear not to tell. She reveals that her real name is Kristen. Someone mistakenly called her Crystal at play practice and she never corrected them because she liked having a nickname. She liked belonging for once. Misty opens up too, and she makes a big uh-oh. She tells Crystal she has a secret, a ginormous one. Misty reveals what she did to the black box, and Crystal is horrified. So you're the reason we never got rescued? Misty tries to play it off as a joke and says, like, you should see your face. And Crystal says, you're not that good of an actress. Like, she calls her out. She calls Misty a psycho, and Misty begs her to keep the secret. And Crystal asks, what if I don't? Are you going to poison me? Misty slowly walks towards her and replies, no, I will fucking kill you. And as she's talking, she's walking forward more. Crystal's backing up, one step too far and falls off the cliff. Misty rushes to the bottom and tries CPR to the beat of Stayin' Alive, but it's no use. Blood pours from Crystal's mouth, and Misty apologizes, then leaving her there as the snow begins to cover her body. She races back to the cabin and lies, telling the group that she lost Crystal in the storm. The others realize that Ty and Shauna are also still out there, and they rush outside to call for them. We then flash back to pre-crash health class. The class watches a childbirth video. At the end, Coach Ben asks if there's any questions, and Misty, of course, enthusiastically asks, how much blood is there on average? Right, because I'm sure all your classmates want to know that. She Shauna and Ty make it back, and Shauna is clearly in labor. As everyone panics, they look to Misty for guidance, and she initially freezes. When she sees the blood on her hands, she flashes back to Crystal's dead body. She panics and runs and starts beating herself up, calling herself stupid and a freak. And Lottie finds her and snaps her out of it. Misty admits that she and Crystal had a plan. They were supposed to do this together. And Lottie reassures her, and Misty tags back in. Akila tells her that the placenta is out, but the baby isn't. Shauna begs Misty to save her baby. Misty coaches her through it. I'm palming the head, one more big push. We all know what comes next. Shauna's heartbreaking fever dream of her baby surviving. When she wakes up, Misty is the one to hand her the baby and tell her that he unfortunately didn't make it. Once the snow clears, Misty overhears some of the others talking about her. Some praise her for helping with the birth, but Mari says Misty is even more psychotic than they thought. Mari had it out for Misty from the beginning, in my opinion, and accuses her of doing something to Crystal. But she wasn't wrong. So Jen asks why Misty would kill her friend. And Mari reminds her of what Misty tried to do to Coach and questions why she hasn't gone out to search for Crystal now that the weather's cleared. Misty then announces that they need to form a search party. Coach agrees. If Javi survived, maybe Crystal can too. Before heading out to search, Misty overhears Jen and Melissa discussing eating Crystal if she's found dead. Yikes. Misty, Akila, and Mari all go search together, and Misty pretends to break down, saying she can't handle finding another dead body after Jackie and the baby. So Akila tells her that she should just go back to the cabin. And Misty takes this opportunity to sneak away to Shitcliff to try to look for Crystal's body again. But it is nowhere to be found. And as she climbs back up, she sees Coach Ben standing on the edge of the cliff. So she hides, watching him for a little bit. And when he's about to jump, she stops him, threatening to out him as gay if he does. And he doesn't give a shit. Like, he really does not care. It's only when Misty breaks down crying that he seems to change his mind. Later, Misty hums a song that sets Shauna off, and Shauna flat out decks her in the face. That leads to Shauna's brutal beatdown of Lottie, and Misty tends to Lottie afterward with Mari's reluctant help. Mari complains about the smell of Lottie's urine, and Misty tells her to shut up, calling her a brat, which in that moment I was like, yes. If it's so gross, take it downstairs and dump it. When Lottie starts to come to, she makes Misty promise not to let her body go to waste if she dies. And Misty relays this to the others, and this becomes the spark that lights the ritualistic hunt. Still mad that they didn't show how that played out, though. Later, when Javi falls through the ice, Misty grabs Natalie and holds her back, telling her that if she tries to save him, the others will come for her instead. It's one of the only times that Misty openly protects Natalie. Her leadership during Lottie's recovery is epic. Agreed, RD. She really took charge there. After Javi's death, Misty reports to Lottie, and Lottie is horrified. How could you let them do this? And Misty snaps, how could I? You started this. It's going to save us, so don't make anyone feel bad about it. Misty returns to the others and tells them that Lottie is pleased with the Wilderness's choice. She gives Lottie her share of Javioli and tells her that she needs her strength. Lottie says she thought that it wanted what was best for them, but now she's not so sure. Misty replies, your team needs you, and urges Lottie to eat. When the cabin burns down, it's Misty that tells everyone to grab what they can. And thank God she did, because they actually managed to salvage quite a bit, as we saw. And that is where we leave Misty in the teen timeline of season 2. So for the adult timeline of season 2, we first reconnect with adult Misty in season 2 as she tries to coach Shauna through a potential police interrogation, which unsurprisingly doesn't go that well. Misty finds Shauna's performance less than convincing and tells her, the only thing you should say to the cops is, I want my lawyer. That's why I put it on a cookie. Because of course Misty would make a cookie that says, I want my lawyer in icing. She pesters Shauna about whether she got rid of Adam's stuff, and while Shauna says yes, Misty clearly doesn't buy it. Later, we see Misty scrolling through the Citizen Detective message board and spotting a post about Adam Martin from the user putting the sick in forensics. Misty downvotes the post, muttering, he's grasping at straws. Next, she visits the motel where Natalie had been staying and questions the guy at the front desk. Brunette, stunning, looks like she'd stab you. He tries to brush her off, but after a little Misty-style coaxing, he reveals that Natalie took off in the middle of the night and paid in cash. Misty then checks out Natalie's room and quickly picks up on signs that suggest that Natalie didn't leave of her own free will. She also notices a security camera outside and hops back on the message board for help. Putting the sick in forensics replies, if Misty will stop trashing his Adam Martin theories, he might have something. She tells him he needs to stop wasting everyone's time with wild goose chases, and she slams the laptop shut. At work, Misty gets attention from a man touring the nursing home with his mother. Later, she finds an envelope with her name on it in the fridge. Inside is a seemingly blank sheet of paper. At home, while cleaning Caligula's cage with a blacklight, she flashes the blacklight on the paper and a hidden message appears. It's from Walter, aka putting the sick in forensics. He tells her the motel security footage is dead end, but that he ID'd a man living there and plans to question him. Want to tag along? The next day, Misty meets Walter at a boat dock. He greets her as Agent African Gray, a nod to her Citizen Detective handle. She greets him by name too, flexing her own skills. She insists she's the one running the interview until she finds out the witness is Randy Walsh. She then ducks into the bathroom and feeds Walter questions through headphones. But Misty loses patience quickly. She tells Walter to scare Randy a little and to smack him. After some light power tool intimidation, Randy confesses. A group of people in purple were hanging out around the vending machine in the week before Natalie disappeared. He's still mad that they bought all the Fanta. Misty realizes they might be able to trace them via credit card. Walter, being a hacker and all, looks into it and invites Misty on a road trip to Cherry Corners, New York. On the drive, Misty tries calling Ty but gets no answer. Shocking, I know. She vents her worry, and Walter tells her that they're lucky to have someone like her who relentlessly has their backs. Then he pulls out a huge, what looked like suitcase full of cassette tapes, all musicals, and Misty gets pretty suspicious and accuses him of being a Yellowjackets obsessive. Walter tells her that her being a Yellowjacket is the least interesting thing about her. He just wanted to team up with the incomparable African Gray. At a cafe, Walter reveals he's a multimillionaire after a scaffolding accident lawsuit. Misty pulls aside a waitress asking about the purple people. They're told the group runs a honey stand at the farmer's market on Tuesdays, and it just so happens to be Tuesday. The market leads nowhere, but they get another lead pointing them to a nearby town. And Walter suggests waiting until morning because it's almost dark. Misty wants to press on, but he insists. They check into Airbnb, a bed and breakfast, and both obsessively inspect their rooms. Citizen Detective soulmates. On the way to Lottie's compound, they play Two Truths and a Lie. Only Walter kind of cheats and doesn't play the game correctly and gives 3 wild truths. Misty is not impressed by that whatsoever. Soon they reach a gated road with a B symbol. Bingo. Misty finally lays eyes on Natalie, who tells her that she's healing with Lottie's help. Misty is stunned to learn that Lottie is no longer in Switzerland, and a little embarrassed that she didn't know that. Like, how could our resident citizen detective miss that, guys? Walter tries to comfort her. Misty insists that they're holding Natalie hostage. She accuses Lottie of being jealous of her bond with Natalie. Walter calls out her lie about Adam Martin's mom, saying he knows that she's dead. And he figures that Misty killed Adam to protect someone, but he says he doesn't care about her extracurriculars. Misty is not charmed in the slightest by this. She promptly ends things with him, gets out of the car, says she'll find another way home. After Walter leaves, Misty tries to sneak into the compound. An acolyte lets her in and confiscates her phone, saying phones keep us captive to other people's priorities. Classic cult line. Misty threatens Lottie with an IRS tip-off unless she lets Natalie go. And Lottie says they saved Natalie from suicide, which Misty just doesn't believe. Lottie asks her to stay and says that it would actually be really beneficial to Natalie and her if she stayed. So Misty joins the community, even participating in a drum circle. She later calls Ty to fill her in on Lottie and Natalie's location. Soon, Ty, Shauna, and Van all show up, and Misty asks Ty and Van if they're back together. Ty says no. Lottie welcomes them, and as the camera pans out, we see the symbol etched into the ground beneath them as Lottie is walking towards the other 5 women. Love that scene. So cool. Lottie assigns everyone a treatment, and Misty's is called guidance, which turns out to be a sensory deprivation tank. Misty tries to back out. She sneaks out to avoid it, runs into Shauna, and makes a joke about Adam Martin, which Shauna does not find funny. Misty defends herself, saying that she's the only one that took their situation with disposing of his body seriously. Shauna snaps back that Misty seems to have serial killer hobbies, which she's not wrong. Misty eventually does the treatment and has a full-blown hallucination. Walter, Morse code, a Garfield phone, a human-sized Caligula. She has a conversation with Caligula, and she asks if people see her as a murderer. And he replies, "You're a closer." Afterward, Misty leaves Walter a voicemail, hinting at her feelings for him. Later, the women sit around drinking, and Natalie grills Misty about Walter. They then dance around a fire to lightning crashes until Shauna gets a phone call. Adam's body has been found. Misty asks if the grave was actually 6 feet deep. She's annoyed that she didn't do it herself. In Lottie's sharing shack, secrets spill. Misty exposes Ty for hiring Jessica Roberts. Shauna asks what would have happened if Jessica went rogue, and Misty admits that she handled it. They don't need to worry about it. She thought Jessica was the one blackmailing them. Then Lottie proposes a hunt, offering tea laced with phenobarbital. Misty jokes that that is what the Heaven's Gate cult used. They reluctantly agree to the hunt as a stalling tactic. Misty secretly calls in for psychiatric help, and she finds Lottie's meds and phone, and I'm assuming she uses those things or needs those things, needs the prescription information and stuff like that. But Walter appears out of nowhere, saying he's here to help. The women draw cards, and Shauna gets the Queen of Hearts. Before they can hunt her, Callie shows up with a gun and grazes Lottie's arm, which halts the chaos for a second. Lisa then storms in with a rifle aimed at Natalie, and Misty leaps in to protect her, stabbing Natalie with a syringe of fentanyl. Misty was trying to stab Lisa with the syringe, and at the last second, Natalie steps in between them and takes the hit, and Misty kills her best friend. As Natalie's body is taken away, Misty collapses into Walter's arms, sobbing, and he holds her as she grieves, and that's where we leave adult Misty in season 2. Gutted, devastated, but for the first time in a long time, she was not alone. Season 3, the season that is the freshest on everyone's memories. Teen timeline. We see teen Misty in season 3 still just as eager as ever to insert herself into the group. She offers to take minutes for their meeting, and of course, they turn her down, which is nothing new for Misty. She handles rejection surprisingly well for a teenager, but I wonder if that's in part because she's just so used to it by now. After Shauna spits in Mari's food and attacks her, Mari stomps off on her own. And naturally, the group decides to go look for her, and no surprise, Misty jumps to volunteer. To Natalie's annoyance, she ends up paired with Misty for the search. While they're out, Misty asks Nat if she really thinks that Coach is dead and whether he actually set the cabin on fire. Nat's answer surprised me at first, to be honest. She totally downplays the bond that she had with Coach, but in hindsight, I think it was her way of protecting both herself and Coach. Misty says Coach believed in Nat and that he'd be proud of her and what they built, but Nat just completely brushes it off. As they keep searching, Nat notices a trap that Coach Ben had set. She tries to distract Misty so she won't catch on, but it's too late. Misty sees it, calls it a clue, and she logs that info away. For some unforsaken reason, she takes that information to Shauna, of all people, and says she thinks Nat knows where Coach is. I still struggle to understand Misty's decision-making sometimes. Like, why would you sabotage the one person you idolize? I don't make it make sense, guys. Mari eventually returns after her rendezvous with Coach. And again, Misty is right there to help her out, which that kind of struck me as a little odd, given how rocky their relationship has been. Mari kind of bullied her. Misty then joins the others on the hunt for Coach, and she ends up being the obvious choice to defend him during the mock trial to determine his guilt or innocence. Before the trial, Misty confronts Coach and slaps him across the face, asking how he could do this to them. She tells him, "I thought we were friends." And he promises he didn't try to kill them, and Misty insists that he has to prove it. During the trial, Misty puts up a solid defense. She casts doubt and raises other possibilities. She argues that if Coach really had captured Mari, he could have just killed her, but he didn't. That doesn't sound like a vengeful murderer to me. She also points out that not everyone believed in the power of the wilderness before the fire. So realistically, any one of them could have done it. All they have is circumstantial evidence. Hello, reasonable doubt. I think it's because she's such a need to be liked that she'll do anything. Yeah, that's what I equated to as well, Zia. That's when Shauna decides to bring up what Misty told her earlier about Nat possibly protecting Coach. And in a last-ditch effort to save him, Misty calls Coach to testify on his own behalf. He gives a heartfelt apology to Shauna for not stepping up when she needed him and insists that he would never hurt them. His words are moving, 100%, but not enough. Shauna bullies everyone into a guilty verdict. Then Akila has her vision about Coach being the bridge home. And just like that, the execution is shelved. No one was more horrified by Nat killing Coach than Misty. Her first boyfriend gone, with a knife to the heart. In her grief, she demands the group arrest her, murder her. I don't think Misty's heart had ever truly been broken until that moment. She visits Coach's still warm corpse, holds him, and gives him a creepy kiss goodbye. Then Hannah and company arrive just as the group is chowing down on Coach's body. And Lottie axes Edwin in the head, but not before Misty tries to smooth it over with, "He died of natural causes," as she casually tosses a rib bone over her shoulder. I love that scene. It was so funny. Later, Misty joins in on the hunt for Hannah and Kodiak. She zeroes in on Kodiak, who shoots an arrow at her, breaking her glasses. This forced Misty to spend the night outside, basically blind. Fortunately, she finds her broken glasses the next morning. Hallelujah, the freaky four-eyed mushroom lives on. Misty then managed to track Travis, Aquila, and Kodiak thanks to the fabric pieces Aquila left as trail markers. And Misty leads the group to them, and they're ordered back to camp. Misty proposes to Team Crazy, aka Shauna, Van, Ty, and Melissa, that she can spy on the others to try and find out what's going on. Shauna, now paranoid, is all for it. Yes, Sammy is vegan. That is true. Kennedy. Misty tries to weasel her way into the Aquila Mari circle to gather intel, but they don't trust her. They're not telling her shit. Then she notices Van sneaking off with a backpack, and Misty follows her to the plane wreckage where Van rips out some cockpit wires, clearly trying to fix the sat phone she and Ty found at the frog scientist camp. Misty later follows Van again and finds where she stashed the sat phone, and Misty steals the broken antenna from the phone. Then we finally see why, because the black box makes a comeback, guys. Misty pulls it from its hiding place, comparing the wires with the sat phone antenna. Natalie, who's followed her, watches it all go down. She confronts Misty, yelling, "Oh my God, you have the fucking transponder? You're telling me this is all your fault? Fuck you, Misty. Fuck you, fuck you, fuck you." Then bam, fist to the face. Totally saw that coming though. And honestly, Natalie had every right to punch her. Misty explains that she knows how to get them home. She asks Nat if she's going to tell the others, and this is the moment that makes Misty's devotion to Natalie in the adult timeline make so much sense. Nat kept her biggest secret. Of course, Misty would be loyal to her after that. Misty breaks down the sat phone situation, which puts the plan to call for help in motion. The next morning, Misty asks Van how it's going with the phone, and Van says all she's hearing is static, and Misty suggests they try again later together. We then see the hunt for Mari unfold, and the scenes from the pilot come full circle, no pun intended, including Misty pulling off her mask and smirking. And before the season finale, we all assumed that smile meant that they were eating Pit Girl, aka Mari. But now we know the real reason for that smile. Her smile was because the plan was in motion. Nat was taking the sat phone to the cliff to make that phone call. So yeah, Misty had Nat's back, just like we always suspected, because Natalie took her biggest secret to the grave. And that is where things stand as of now for Teen Misty in the teen timeline, because season 3 is all we got, guys. So the adult timeline for Misty. Misty is in the deep throes of some serious survivor's guilt when we first catch up with her in season 3. So much so that not even Natalie's funeral can get her out of bed. Walter tries to coax her out, telling her it might be healing to attend, but it's in one ear, out the other, until he drops the little nugget. He visited Nat's storage unit, somehow got the key, and leaves it for Misty, suggesting she check it out for anything incriminating or sentimental, and that finally gets her up and moving. She goes, gathers a few things, most notably Nat's leather jacket, which I'm pretty sure that she wears it for the remainder of the season after she finds it in that storage unit. Like, this was episode 1. This is episode 6. Different shirt. She's wearing, I'm pretty sure, a black shirt here. This is episode 9. These are all different times, and she's all wearing this jacket. She is straight up obsessed with this jacket. So after putting it on, Misty heads to a bar that looks eerily similar to the one that she and Nat went to back in season 1. But instead of her usual espresso martini, she downs multiple shots of whiskey. And while she's at the bar, she imagines teen Natalie speaking to her as some guys comment on her jacket. "Hi, Angelo. You shouldn't take shit from dirtbags like that. You don't have to take shit from anyone." Misty lashes out at the guys, accusing them of mocking her, and she tells them to be careful. She's set dicks on fire before and douses them with beer, screaming for a lighter. Misty, get it together, girl. To Misty, Nat's jacket is like Jackie's shirt to Shauna. That's a good comparison, Buck Monkey. So she tries walking home, but Walter finds her somehow. Which, how? She left her phone at the bar. I have questions. How did he find her? Using dicks as candle wicks. That's a good one, Dustin. He says the bartender went through her contacts and called the first person who picked up. Convenient. Walter comforts her as she breaks down on the sidewalk, confessing again that she killed her best friend. She tries walking. Oh, I already said that. Sorry, guys. The next morning, Walter lays out a breakfast spread for her hangover, which she promptly turns her nose up at. He comments that the other women only show up when they need something. And Misty tells him that he can never understand the trauma bond that they all share. And then she gets a call from Shauna, who's secretly recruiting her to babysit Lonnie and Callie. Once Misty shows up and pieces things together, she realizes she's being used. But she also feels needed, so she goes with it. That's a good point, Zia. Misty wearing Nat's jacket gives her the confidence and strength to finally stand up to people, especially Shauna. Very true. Very true. She isn't at the bar to do her taxes. Yes, I'm doing a rewatch right now so that I can do a group rewatch with everyone. And I wrote down that line in my notes from my rewatch last night, Dustin. So Misty tries to keep Lonnie and Callie apart. Fail. Callie busts out the rum milk punch. Ew. And suddenly it's slumber party time. Truth or dare included. Callie pries for wilderness secrets, and Misty tries to steer the convo elsewhere, but ends up passing out from Callie's allergy med cocktail. Epic fail, Misty. For some reason, Shauna lets Misty drive herself home afterward, which, what the fuck, Shauna? That is so fucked up. Walter is not thrilled when Misty arrives home trashed, which is understandable. He calls out her friends for letting her drive drunk. Misty snaps, telling him to stop air quoting my friendships. And she kicks him out. The next day, Misty and Shauna meet for coffee so Misty can spill what went down the night before. And wow, Shauna's treatment of Misty here really stuck with me. It is painfully clear that she views Misty as disposable. But at the same time, Misty lets her. Misty insists that she had everything under control. Shauna tries shaking her off by rattling off some fake errands, but Misty invites herself along, naturally. On the drive, Shauna's brakes malfunction, nearly crashing them into a playground full of kids. And once the chaos dies down, Shauna blames Misty, citing her past antics, kidnapping Jessica Roberts, carrying around syringes of fatal drugs, you know, the usual Misty behavior. Misty, hurt, fires back, fine. But you're the worst friend, not the best. And you are not what I deserve. And she storms off. Later, she burns a photo of the Core 4 from season 1. And to me, that symbolizes Misty finally being done with being treated like garbage by people that she would take a bullet for. She's done being a doormat. Then, surprise, Shauna and Jeff show up to volunteer at Misty's nursing home. Misty asks Shauna if she's there to apologize. Spoiler, she's not. She doesn't think she did anything wrong. Shocker. As petty revenge, Misty puts her on tapioca duty, which doesn't really faze Shauna. Misty is so bothered that Shauna is not bothered that she imagines stabbing Shauna in the back with a knife. This is not healthy, she mutters, and then she leaves, which I guess is growth. Later, Misty is on the citizen detective boards and sees a post titled "Body Found. Details still coming in." Misty didn't have the information she had for Shauna for their meetup. Of course, Shauna would try to get at him. True. So details coming in. At that same moment, she gets a text from Walter. I just heard about Lottie. Are you okay? And Misty clicks the image, which is crime scene photos of Lottie dead at the bottom of a staircase. So she visits the morgue where Lottie was taken. Of course, Misty would know someone that works at that exact morgue. She blackmails him into handing over Lottie's belongings and swabs DNA from under Lottie's fingernails. Classic MFQ. Misty then calls Shauna, Ty, and Nat all to her house, and she tells them about what happened to Lottie. The coroner ruled it an accident, but Misty thinks it's fishy. And Shauna instantly blames Misty, saying that she had a reason to be mad at Lottie more than anyone else, which is really rich, Shauna, considering the necklace that Lottie had just given your daughter. Misty denies everything and kicks them all out of her house. Next, Misty visits Lottie's father's penthouse, and as she's snooping around, she runs into Walter, again, already there with Shauna, digging into Lottie's digital history. Walter offers to share what he finds with Misty if she teams up with them, and she declines, 100% declines. Misty then finds Lottie's phone, but Walter had already cloned and reset it, and Misty brings the nail scrapings to a DNA guy for analysis, slipping him a bribe. Later, Walter texts her with an apology and some of Lottie's trash because, of course, he dumpster dives for clues. Misty spots a takeout box from a sketchy restaurant with no veggie options. Why would Lottie go there? She visits the place and finds Lisa, who says Lottie gave her $50K and an apology. And Lisa suggests Misty look at Lottie's friends if she wants answers. Specifically, Ty. Yes, Kennedy. I left that line out, but yes, that part was so funny. So Ty says she wasn't the one who killed Lottie. Whoever sent Shauna that tape is. And Misty's like, well, what tape? Shauna keeping secrets? Shocking. They confront Shauna at the Jolly Hedger, and Misty says, I'm sending cleanup, and Shauna snaps, I didn't ask for help. Misty's response, not yet, but if past this prologue, you will, late and rudely. Not wrong. On the way to confront Alex, or so they think, Walter calls Misty. Shauna's DNA matches the scrapings from under Lottie's nails. Misty then texts Van and Ty, and Shauna starts to catch on. But before she can dig further, Van starts puking up blood, and it's hospital time. There, Misty accuses Shauna of killing Lottie, and Shauna is outraged, but soon bounces and heads to Alex's. Misty is not surprised whatsoever. She tries to be there for Ty when she decides to murder a dying man to save Van, but Ty chickens out and ends up killing the guy anyway by accident. They bolt. Once Van is discharged, they go to rescue Shauna. On the way, they spot a woman on the side of the road, Melissa. Misty recognizes her, and basically kidnaps her, which, like we talked about earlier, kind of weird and a little suspicious that Misty would be able to pick her out in that scenario, even though she was supposed to have committed suicide when she was a teenager. So she back at Melissa's, Misty points the finger at her again, and Ty comes to Shauna's defense, which really pisses Misty off. She admits that she knew the freezer door was broken and didn't warn Shauna because honestly, she deserves some quality time in there. I don't think she was wearing the hat though when she fled the house. Like, I don't think the hat was on her head at that point. So, but unless you're just joking around with me and I'm taking it too literal. So sorry guys, I lost my place. I didn't think she was wearing the hat, guys. I thought she was, I'm pretty sure when she goes to get in the van, she doesn't have a hat on her head. I could be wrong, but I don't know. Now you guys are making me wonder. Anyways. Oh, okay. um, so she knew the freezer door was locked. Yeah. Misty leaves and gets picked up in a literal field by Walter, who casually claims that Keith Morrison owed him a favor. You can't make this up. Back at Walter's, they talk Lottie's murder. Misty wonders if they're putting too much stock in the DNA. She double checks Shauna's alibi and it checks out. And Walter jokes that maybe the cat waited in the car while she did the deed. Misty says she still feels like something is off. She asks about Lottie's clone phone, and while Walter is distracted making her a martini with chocolate shavings, she swipes the phone and finds something that shocks her. She leaves without a word, but Walter doesn't really look that surprised. Okay, so you guys were, yeah, okay. No hat. Turns out she found a photo of Callie on Lottie's phone. So Misty confronts her at Yellowjackets High and accuses her of being the killer because mothers and daughters share mitochondrial DNA and apparently homicidal tendencies. Callie confesses. Misty says she'll feel better getting it off her chest. And when Shauna comes home to an empty house, she storms to Misty's and demands answers. And Misty tells her Callie killed Lottie, explains the DNA match, and says that Callie left with Jeff. Misty tells Shauna to get lost, that she is over her. And the last we see of Misty in season 3 is her meeting at the diner with Ty, hinting at a new alliance to maybe finally put a stop to Shauna's chaos. I can't wait to see where things go for Misty next. So, where do things head for MFQ next, both in the past and in the present? In the past, I'm not entirely sure, but now that Natalie knows Misty's biggest secret being the black box, I think Misty is going to cling to Nat like Velcro. She'll have Natalie's back loyally and obsessively until rescue. And if there's a showdown between Nat and Shauna, you know Misty's picking Natalie's side. I keep going back and forth on whether they'll rebel against Shauna now that they know help is on the way. But one thing's for sure, Misty is not making the same mistake twice. After what happened with Crystal and now Natalie, there's no way she's spilling that black box secret again. Even with her completely warped logic, she had to know that others would react badly to that kind of a bombshell after it happening badly 2 times in a row. I think Misty will do whatever it takes to protect Natalie, and that might mean causing a wedge between Nat and Shauna. And honestly, it makes sense when you look at how adult Shauna treats Misty. It's not just annoyance. There's serious disdain there. Way more than just Misty is a little cray-cray. It makes me think that there's still some big moment in the past that we haven't seen yet. Something that really cemented that tension. Like, I highly doubt Misty was invited to the Sadecki wedding. Let's just put it that way. In the present, Misty finally hits her limit. She's done being the butt of the joke. Say what you want about her methods. Were they creepy? Absolutely. Were they borderline illegal? Yes. But was she loyal? 100%. She snorted illegal drugs to stop Natalie from relapsing. Like, again, deeply flawed logic, but her heart was weirdly in the right place. We know that by the end of season 3, Taissa goes to Misty, and it very much looks like they're about to team up against Shauna. Misty's chosen her side, so she wants Shauna taken down. And Misty, fellow Jackets, I ask you, is it weird to send your kid to the same school you went to after what happened? That's a good question. I'll come back to that in a sec. So a Misty Taissa duo. Well, I'll just talk about it now. Is that weird? I'm not a parent or survivor of a plane crash. I feel like that would draw a lot of attention to your child. So if it were me personally, like, I mean, I would never still live in my hometown at that age. So that's another thing. Like, my kids would never have a chance of going to my high school because I would never live in that area. But if I went through a tragedy like that, no, I probably would not send my child to the exact same school. Like, my memory would forever be haunting her. So no. Um, a Misty Thaisa duo. That could actually be kind of dangerous. Thaisa has political power, connections, and access. And Misty has her citizen detective skills and zero regard for boundaries. Shauna is definitely convinced that Misty is to blame for Jeff and Callie going on the lam. And I think Misty's perfectly fine leaning into the villain role that they've cast her in. She is done taking their crap. But the one thing I'm dying to see more of, Misty and Walter. That relationship has layers. We know Walter was clearly watching Misty and Thaisa during their little rendezvous. But why? Is he following her to protect her, or is he playing a longer, more sinister game? That Sherlock Moriarty comment keeps echoing in my head. Like, why compare yourself to someone's mortal enemy unless that's a little peek into what's coming? It definitely feels like some major foreshadowing to me. All right, guys. I think I've talked about Misty enough for one night. Though, let's be real, as my favorite character, I could go on about her for literal days. Her comic relief, her desperation to belong, her overbearing energy, all of it is so uniquely Misty. And I am here for all of it. I can't wait to see what's next for our bird-loving citizen detective. What's been your favorite Misty moment? Drop a comment and let me know. I would love to hear which one stands out the most. And do not forget, on June 22nd, which is a Sunday, I'm not finished yet, Book Monkey. Don't worry. I'm waiting. Do you think Caligula is dead? Oh gosh, I don't know, because when she, like, I thought she was either cleaning out the cage at the end or she was taking the Caligula sign off because Walter had put it on there for her and she didn't want the remind anything to do with Walter anymore, so she took it off. Like, I can't believe I let someone as despicable as you give Caligula a bath. Like, I could see her being spiteful like that and being like, I don't need this anymore, and just taking it off. I don't think Caligula's dead. No, I don't think so. So don't forget, on June 22nd, which is a Sunday, at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, like I have been for the past couple live streams, I will be hosting a Yellowjackets fan panel and discussion episode. I've rounded up some amazing folks from within the fandom that I've met along this journey, and we'll be discussing the series in real time together. There will be some trivia. We'll toss around some theories for season 4. There'll be some laughs. And I hope that you'll buzz in and join us all for the fun. Fan panels are honestly one of my favorite parts of podcasting. I love hearing thoughts and theories from all of you because we're all fans of the show. So I love to just talk to like-minded folk about it. I've got a solid lineup already, but if this sounds like something that you'd be dying to be a part of, shoot me a message and I'll see if we can squeeze in 1 or 2 more people. And coming in July, my next deep dive will be on none other than Thaisa Turner. I'm working my way through the remaining main characters, and after that, I'll be honoring some of the lesser characters and some of the characters that we've lost along the way too. As always, if there is a specific topic that you want to hear covered on the podcast, please do not be shy. I am super friendly, guys. Send me a message. I've got some content ideas up my sleeve, but I always want to prioritize what you want to hear about. And if you haven't hit that subscribe button on YouTube yet, please do. It means more than you know. I'm incredibly proud of the growth that the podcast saw during season 3, and I'd love nothing more than to keep that momentum going. Thanks, Angie. It was awesome. So, also, I'll be branching out soon and covering a few other shows. I'm being a bit selective about what I dive into next, but I can tell you that I'll definitely be covering season 2 of Fallout when it premieres in December, and I am super excited for that. All right, my Misty chatters. Thank you for buzzing in. It's been a blast sharing all things MFQ. And with that, until I spill again.